So I'm out on the boat again, getting ready to go fishing. Haven't even touched my rods from this weekend. I just finished up a tournament, got 4th place. I was really happy with that. It was a media bass individual championship on Lake Whitney in Texas, and it was brutal. I mean, super hot out, 100 degrees, not a very good time of year to fish. And, you know, I did well enough to get a check, and everything that I did was word for word almost what I just wrote an article about a few weeks ago. I just saw it posted on bassresource.com. And the article that I wrote was on the 5 rules for targeting this fall transition. You know, the really tough time of year when summer is technically over. I mean, we're past September 21st, but it's fall, but it's still really hot. You know, so it's that transitional time when fishing is not very good unless you're way up north. You know, the majority of the places in the country, the fishing is awful. But in that article, what I talked about was 5 rules that I am always paying attention to this time of year. And, you know, some of them are pretty obvious, but, you know, looking at that tournament, I followed that to a T and was able to cash a check. So number 1 on the list was finding the bait fish. And obviously that's always going to be an important thing. You know, bass eat shad, you know, they're always eating bluegill. So if you can find that, you're going to be in a good spot. During that tournament, you know, I'd never been to the Lake Whitney, and I spent one day there about 3 weeks ago just to check it out, and then the 2 days before the tournament. So 3 days on the fishery, and I fished the entire lake. It's not a huge lake, but I fished everywhere you can go by boat. You know, all the way up the river, all the way to the dam, everywhere in between. Looked at everything, and I did not see much life at all. You know, there was gar swimming around. You know, caught a couple catfish, caught some striper, caught some small bass, but there was 3 areas that had a lot of activity. You know, stripers, maybe white bass, I don't know, but there was a lot of schooling activity with some bass. So that ended up being the 3 areas that I used in the tournament by finding those fish. The other thing too is when you find those fish, you know, this time of year, they're really small. So instead of bigger baits, I like to use a lot smaller baits. I didn't have any, you know, real tiny baits, but the baits that I caught fish on were smaller than what I normally use. Like normally I'm using a 110 jerkbait. This is the Trick Darter X80 Megabass. Caught a nice keeper on this on the first day. Fishing on a Phoenix rod. This is the Maxim 610 medium. I really like this rod in this lineup for jerkbaits and topwaters. You know, got a Shimano Chronarch MGL and fishing on 12-pound Seaguar Tatsu. But that bait was really key, and you could see it's a lot smaller than, you know, a standard jerkbait. It's an 80 size versus 110 millimeter, so quite a bit smaller, about 3/4 of the size, and that was key to catch that one very important fish. Another bait that caught some fish on was the Lucky Craft Gunfish, and I think this is a 95 size. I can't remember exactly, but it's a little bit smaller. It's not a full spook size bait. This bait also has a great little walking action and splashing action, so it's kind of a popper / walker. It's great for anytime there's schooling fish. I use it all the time. This is a Phoenix Feather 7-1 medium heavy, I believe. Yes, it is. And I got the Rebo ALF. I don't think they make this reel anymore, but it's a really good casting reel. And then 40-pound Seaguar Smackdown. So that was another really key one. We'll go into the other rules too coming up, but this one's another one that actually caught the majority of my fish was a drop shot. And you'll see I actually have a swim bait on there. You know, a lot of people throw the Keitechs, you know, the Swing Impact Fat, which I caught some on this as well. But this is the regular Swing Impact. It comes in a package like this. I love these little things. The 3-inch, they have a 2.5. They're perfect for imitating small shad. And you can fish it on a drop shot. You know, you could just reel it along the bottom, and it's just like fishing this, but you're gonna stay exactly that far off the bottom. So it's a really cool option. I do it all the time. And like I said, I caught a lot of nice fish, including a almost 5-pounder in practice on this little tiny bait. So big fish will eat little baits. But those are my 3 main baits. Like I said, I did catch some on just the standard Keitech 2.8 Swing Impact Fat. I think that's one of the shad colors. I can't remember exactly what it is, but you know, just a basic 3/16 ounce head. A Shimano Van for 2500, 10-pound Seaguar Smackdown flash green braid with a leader of 10-pound Seaguar Gold Label fluorocarbon. So that's what I did, and that was my first rule, was, you know, finding the bait fish, matching the hatch. You know, you hear that all the time, but it was really critical for this tournament. Allowed me to get a check. But there's some other things too that I did during that tournament that like I said, are just like I talked about in the article. Covering water. You got to do that to find the bait fish, to find the areas. I mean, it's a pretty basic rule, but it's always something to keep in mind. Also, don't overlook the obvious. These spots that I fished were not, really hidden or anything. They were just where the bait fish were, but it was in a marina. It was on one of the biggest main lake points right in front of the boat launch, and then also one of the pockets that had a lot of docks with deep water. So these were all three pretty obvious places. I saw a lot of people fishing them in the tournament, people out there for fun. So they weren't, some hidden backwater or anything like that, but they had the bait fish there. And those are the three areas that I concentrated on. The other thing too that I talked about in that article is looking for isolated cover. That one really didn't come into play as much in this tournament, but this time of year, a lot of the lakes are drawn down, either because of drought, drawing down for irrigation. I mean, there's a lot of reasons that the water gets low this time of year. So that cover along the shoreline is a lot less. There's not flooded trees as often. You might see one single log. So always cast to those isolated pieces of cover. The final thing that I talked about in here was timing the bite. I mean, the morning bite is so critical, especially anytime you have schooling activity, but it could pop up anytime during the day. So what I did is always had that gunfish ready to go. I had it unhooked from my reel, hanging over the side of the boat, just an inch away from the water, just ready to pick up and cast at any time in case I found schooling fish. And that really helped me. I did catch a keeper doing that as well, just being ready and not fumbling around with my rod, having that bait ready to go anytime I saw fish blowing up on shad. So that's one thing, is timing the bite. But also all these spots that I fished 3 times a day. I started at one, went to the next one, and then went to the other one, and then repeated it. And that fishing 3 spots 3 times a day, about an hour each, and the day was over. So that was my plan, just to try to get the morning bite, the mid-morning bite, and the afternoon bite. It worked out at some of them, but it also gave those areas time to kind of relax and replenish and give myself something different to look at instead of fishing the same area over and over. So that was my approach, how I got 4th place on Lake Whitney. I did a full recap of this on this new website that I just started called txbass.com. If you're interested in Texas fishing, it's all going to be about Texas, my experiences fishing different lakes, tournaments, tackle stores, everything related to Texas bass fishing. But even if you're not from Texas, there will be information in there that will help you no matter where you live. So check it out, txbass.com, brand new, just got it launched. Gonna keep building that up and adding content to it as I go fishing, again, through my tournaments, through my fun trips. Anything that related to Texas fishing that I'm doing is gonna be on that site. So again, check it out if you're interested. Appreciate it.